Tonight, stunning images as rioters supporting President Trump overrun the Capitol, scuffling with police. On the floor of the House, officers with guns drawn, with protesters just outside the door. Here you see rioters trying to break down a door, and you hear a gunshot. Over in the Senate, protesters breaching what's supposed to be the highly secure Senate floor, abruptly stopping the counting of electoral votes. Some taking photos on the Senate dais, others shouting and pushing past officers to get inside. Elsewhere, this man sitting with his feet up behind a desk in Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. Police placing the Capitol on lockdown.
A riot was declared. It was clear that the crowd was intent on causing harm to our officers by deploying chemical irritants on police.
Members of Congress rushing to take shelter, some wearing gas masks.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
It began just after that massive pro-Trump rally. Tens of thousands gathering near the White House to protest the expected declaration of Joe Biden's Electoral College victory.
There is the American flag, and beneath it, these crowds of people now who have stormed, trying to make their wishes known.
The group then marching to the Capitol, many just standing on the steps outside, others wandering in the rotunda, some scaling down the building. At one point, an armed standoff. Police say one person was shot. Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger describing to us how she got out of the building.
There were people banging on the doors of the floor of the House of Representatives. It took multiple efforts for us to be able to make our way safely and then depart the Capitol. It's deeply, deeply disturbing what we saw at the U.S. Capitol today.
Top House Republican Kevin McCarthy condemning what he was seeing.
This is so un-American. I condemn any of this violence. This is not the American way. This is not protected by the First Amendment. This must stop now.
Multiple Democratic and Republican lawmakers urged President Trump to appear on camera to tell the protesters to leave. Instead, he later tweeted, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue." The president-elect then imploring President Trump to speak.
At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst, they can incite. And therefore, I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
By about 4:15 this afternoon, this message from the White House.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you.
Just ahead of a campaign event in New Hampshire, Joe Biden
just let me play this little clip.
Took a moment to hear a question from Sarah Boyd, a Democratic voter and college student in Pennsylvania.
How are you going to make sure that if someone has conditions or pre-existing conditions or anything like that, that they can trust that their health insurance, whether it's publicly or privately funded, will protect them and care for them?
My plan calls for taking Obamacare and building on Obamacare, restoring all the cuts that the president made, making sure that the 160 million people like that young lady who asked the question, if they like their private plan, they can keep it, unlike Medicare for all where they have to give it up.
Biden calls for increased subsidies so more insurance plans cap out-of-pocket expenses at $1,000 a year, for the government to limit prices on prescription drugs, and for a public insurance option for all who choose it.
Now, it does cost. It costs about $750 billion over 10 years, but doesn't cost $33 billion or $1 trillion,
right,
which the other plan costs for.
Yeah.
And it can be done immediately. Nothing missed between the cup and the lip, as my mom would say.
How would the public option work? Can you just give me some bare bones?
Yeah, I'll give you bare bones.
Work?
Public option is you say, I don't have enough money to buy into this plan. I don't have enough money to buy into it, so the gold plan. Well, here's the deal. I don't have any money at all. Are you eligible now for Medicaid? Well, if you are, you're in. Come on, nothing, free. Move. We'll move you in.
Joe Biden is convinced his plan is the way to go. Achievable, he says. Practical. Harry Smith, NBC News, New London, New Hampshire.
tonight, former Secretary of State John Kerry tells us he's on a critical new mission as President-elect Joe Biden's newly named Special Presidential Envoy to combat climate change.
He's deeply committed to it. What Americans should understand is we are in crisis, but this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the United States to create millions of jobs, to move into a new, more exciting, cleaner energy base for our economy.
Biden saying he'll rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement on day one, though there are questions over whether the deal, which Kerry helped negotiate, is doing enough.
Since that deal was signed 5 years ago, we've had the warmest 5 years on record. A new UN report says countries have collectively failed to stop the growth of greenhouse gas emissions. And so the question is, does the Paris Agreement need to be stronger?
Yes, absolutely, yes, it has to be stronger. And one of my missions on behalf of the president and the country is to help create the dynamic where we're bringing reluctant partners to the table because they see the benefits. I'm confident we can get there. The issue is, are we going to get there in time? That's our race. This is our moonshot.
President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the agreement, saying it cost American jobs.
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Kerry calling that a false choice.
What should Americans be prepared to sacrifice in order to meet the president-elect's climate goals?
That's a great question, and I want to make it crystal clear. Moving to address the climate crisis does not mean you have to sacrifice or lose your quality of life. In fact, we will have more jobs and better paying jobs.
Secretary Kerry will get a seat on the National Security Council. The first big test, new climate talks next year in Scotland.
Starting today, Hawaii becomes the first state in the nation to ban the sale or distribution of sunscreens, including some of the most popular brands that contain two chemicals the state says can harm the environment, specifically coral reefs and other forms of marine life.
Products without oxybenzone are available, and we do actually pass them out and recommend people use them.
A new law in Delaware bans single-use plastic carryout bags. The state says the ban will cut down on litter and the amount of plastic in landfills. Beginning today, drivers in Arizona and Virginia can be pulled over and ticketed by police if they're holding a cell phone behind the wheel. It's a further crackdown on distracted driving that Governor Doug Ducey says will make the roads safer.
That text message can wait. It's not worth your life.
2021 brings a security requirement first proposed in the wake of the 9/11 terror attacks, then delayed year after year and postponed again in 2020 because of the pandemic. But the government says beginning this October, anyone wishing to board an airplane flight must present a real ID compliant driver's license or passport or military ID card. The newer licenses all have a star on the upper right-hand corner to show that they meet the law's tougher standards.
We want to make sure that we get these IDs in the hands of all the traveling public. It raises the security across the board, and that's what we're looking for at the end of the day.
Starting today, Illinois will give every child born or adopted in the state $50 for a college savings account intended to keep pace with rising tuition. And feel free now to toast the new year all over Mississippi, which as of today wiped out all remaining laws that made it illegal to possess alcohol. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
What's your big idea?
My big idea is to raise teacher pay.
Kamala Harris is just the second African American woman and first South Asian American elected to the U.S. Senate.
Just last week, I got an email from my middle school teacher, Mrs. Wayne.
We caught up with Harris in West Columbia, South Carolina. She was in town to talk with and about teachers.
There are two groups of people who are raising our children. Parents, often with the assistance of grandparents and aunts and uncles, and our teachers, and we are not paying them their value.
Harris says recent teacher demonstrations across the country are proof a plan like hers is needed. She claims teachers on average make 11% less than other comparably educated professionals. So she wants to give them a $13,500 raise.
What's the price tag?
The price tag is $315 billion over the course of 10 years. We will pay for it by increasing the estate tax.
The teachers union Massive, millions of people. Let's give them $13,000 each. Is this just a play to that crowd?
Absolutely not. I will tell you, my entire career and frankly my entire life, I've been focused on education. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Frances Wilson, God rest her soul, attended my law school graduation. We are a society that pretends to care about education, but not so much the education of other people's children.
Giving teachers a raise. That's Kamala Harris's big idea. Harry Smith, NBC News, West Columbia, South Carolina.